You fools! You have fell for our villainous plot by clicking on this very video.
Right. To celebrate the release of WandaVision on Disney Plus, it's the first Marvel Cinematic Universe hitting that streaming service. We're doing our top 10 villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The intro's done now. We can move on. What's going on, guys? We're the Cinefanatics. My name is Chris Adams.
And I'm Robert Adams.
And we are here back again with the top 10. You may have seen last week we did the top 10 Marvel heroes. Now we're doing the Marvel villains. It's going to be,
That seems about right. That seems like the logical thing to do.
creepy.
Creepy? You mean villainous.
Spooky. Oh, that's the Adams family. Hold on.
Well, I mean, we are the Addams Family. Anyways, beside the point, just keep in mind that this video comprises of our opinions. Do your opinions differ from ours? Let us know down below. Let's talk about it down below in the comments.
Also, you can head over to our Patreon. We're going to post some bonus content up there after this video is done. Go smash that Avengers tier. You know how it is, and you'll be able to get access to that there.
Let's start with this villainous list, though.
Again. Coming in at number 10 is Mysterio. That crazy, crazy Spider-Man villain. You all know him from Far From Home. Here's the thing about Mysterio. He is one of my favorite Spider-Man villains, so I've been wanting him in a Spider-Man movie for forever. Quentin Beck, special effects artist in Hollywood, coming in, can kind of create and do whatever he wants with special effects. That is what I wanted to see up on the big screen. It's perfect for a movie, and the translation from comic book to film, I think, was pretty much perfect, outside the fact that they didn't keep to him being a special effects artist. He was somewhat of a threat in the movie.
Yeah, so a lot of it, like, he might not be a special effects artist himself, but he did wear, like, the CGI suit and stuff. They made him a former employee of Tony Stark, and I love it because this movie's coming off of Tony Stark Iron Man being all deadsies from Endgame, and they basically positioned Mysterio, Quentin Beck, to be, like, the new Iron Man, the new person that Peter Parker is looking up to, and I love the dynamic that they did with that, while bringing in all these special effects and stuff that we know of Mysterio from the comic books. Like all that, the wild, crazy special effects scenarios that he put Spider-Man through in this. It was absolutely gorgeous on film. I love seeing that on the big screen. Easily, I agree. One of my favorite Spider-Man villains that I wanted to see in the movies. At number 9 is Red Skull. This is one I believe was pretty much, I would have said, unfilmable. We saw Red Skull back like in the 90s, and it just looked terrible, like just terrible effects. I didn't think they were actually going to be able to do this and make it look really legit. And they did a fantastic job. The makeup, all the CGI effects that they did on Red Skull looked amazing. And I thought they portrayed him very well in Captain America First Avenger.
And part of that, you've got to give credit to Hugo Weaving for just the gravitas of his performance, because you don't get Red Skull in how big of a deal he is without that kind of performance backing him. The other side of it is he was kind of the founding formation of the major looming threat that kind of hung over the MCU for quite a while in Hydra.
Yeah,
that's a huge deal, because that means the effects of what he did as a villain lasted for years and years and years. And then on top of that, you know, we all thought he was dead, and he comes back. No, he's just been guarding the Soul Stone this entire time, which was a fantastic use of the character, because, again, we're thinking he's gone, he's dead. Where is he? Boom, he's out there guarding another Infinity Stone that he can't have. Life must suck. And at number 8, it's Ironmonger. Now, for those of y'all who aren't familiar with that specific name, it's actually Obadiah Stane, the bad guy from Iron Man 1. He wanted to take control over Stark Industries, so he was plotting to have Iron Man killed, which kind of would have ruined the pathing of the entire MCU if that happened, so thankfully his butt was defeated. But the reason why this is kind of interesting is because while they didn't call him Ironmonger, the suit he was making they were calling Ironmongers. They were Ironmongers. That's what they did as a weapons manufacturer. The thing I loved about this, though, is just how well Jeff Bridges did in this role. I was completely sold on this character the entire way through. But on top of that, he just seemed like a really intimidating villain based on what his motivations were.
Yeah, and the thing to keep in mind with this is that Obadiah Stane, this was the first villain of the MCU, and it kind of set the tone for what we're going to see a lot in the MCU from this movie forward is the villain kind of being almost exactly like the hero. I mean, a rich person that develops his own suit of iron to defeat his opponent. I mean, this is something that is reflecting a lot within the MCU, and even though it is like kind of cliched, I think that was done very well, and it was good at grabbing you and setting that tone for how these villains should be. Yes, Obadiah Stane is a one-note villain within the context of Iron Man, but when you go and look back at like all the other villains of the MCU, some really good, some not so good, we're probably going to continue talking about the good ones, none of these would have been... in our opinions, they wouldn't be where they are at if it wasn't for Obadiah Stane, Ironmonger, setting that bar from the very beginning. And therefore, he most deservedly earns this place on our list.
Most deservedly has a spot on our list.
But not in our grammar. At number 7 is Alexander Pierce. Let me ask you a question real quick. Do you absolutely hate your boss? Of course you do. It's your boss. We all hate our bosses. Well, this one is a boss that gives you the exact reason to hate them because secretly he's a part of a formerly Nazi regime and he just wants to cause chaos and take over the planet or whatever Hydra wants to do in that movie. This is not a nice person, not a good person. And what I like about Pierce is it's Robert Redford.
Yeah.
Like, it is a very classical actor, someone who we've seen over decades doing phenomenal work, and he's coming in just to utterly take over everything, and I love his work in this.
It's what makes him a great villain, though, is because you don't suspect him to be a bad guy. Until you start seeing everything flipping, you find out Hydra's infiltrated S.H.I.E.L.D., and then it's all of a sudden like, oh, this goes up to the top. Well, who's at the top? Alexander Pierce. And it's just such an impressive use of a villain, because you don't get that often where the villain is the secret, kind of infiltrated and has been present the entire time. And he's not somebody with superpowers. He's not somebody who can face down Captain America with ease and be like, yeah, I'm going to win this fight. No, he's somebody who has used cunning and has used wisdom to get to where he's at in regards to also how Hydra has just infiltrated everything this entire time. Talked about it from Red Skull till now. Like, the whole Hydra situation was so impressively used throughout the MCU. And Alexander Pierce is just one of the cornerstone pillars of Hydra being used in the MCU. Coming in at number 6 is Ultron, the big old bad robot from the second Avengers movie, who is a combination of Tony, Bruce Banner.
I feel like he's got a little bit of me in him too.
Maybe. Ultron was such an intimidating bad guy because he was AI. You don't know what's his motivations, what's he thinking, what's his thoughts. The thing I didn't necessarily like about Ultron and why I don't have him up higher on this list is that he kind of just jumped straight to the whole, hey, we should kill the Avengers. That's that's our solution for things. And that happened a little too quick for my tastes. But outside of that, I love his character, what they did with him. I know we've been mentioning actors on a lot of these, but James Spader as Ultron was brilliant casting. They did some great stuff with him.
Yeah. First, when I first watched Age of Ultron, I didn't think that the humor that they gave Ultron was really necessary. Him stumbling off of words like he can't find the words for children. I just thought that was kind of weird and out of place for the super smart AI robot. But I like going back and you watch it now. I kind of enjoy that a little bit because I really feel like that's what brings the personality of Ultron out, instead of just Ultron being a killer robot like he is in the comics. He is like just all about just keeping the peace and destroying humanity. And we got a little bit more than that in the movie because, yeah, kind of like we were saying, that they did straight jump into him wanting to kill everyone.
Yep.
We didn't have time to really, like, drag out this explanation of why we like Ultron and why he was such a threat. Like, they really did need to get straight to the point in this. And I like how they did that. That personality kind of made up for the fact that we're fast forwarding through all of this to get straight to him being a psychopathic robot AI that just wants to destroy everything. And because of that, like, we lost the spirit of this with him bringing in Wanda and Pietro, and then it's because of him that they killed off Pietro, and I thought that was great.
Wait, what did you say just now?
Chris, you're such a strong lady. Do you want me to say it again for good measure?
No, we definitely don't have time for that. I've got to plug our WandaVision reaction live, whatever review it is that we do show on Fridays. It is, what, 7 Pacific is what it's 9 Central for us, so whatever time you can figure out from there. I just butchered this entire thing.
No.
It's going to be at 7 Pacific, 10 Eastern.
Oh, very nice. Nicely plugged. Anyways,
yeah, it was.
Let's get back to our list.
Something's wrong.
At number 5 is Zemo. Now, I know in the comics he's actually referred to as Baron Helmet Zemo, which is weird because we really haven't gotten that character out of him yet.
Yeah.
Eventually we will on Falcon and the Winter Soldier, the TV show that's coming to Disney Plus that we will probably also be reviewing live. We'll talk about that when it gets to it. But this character came into Civil War, not actually in the Civil War comic storyline itself, but he was coming in and was basically the chaos that started all of the Civil War. He was the one that took the insanity that was going on between, say, Iron Man and Captain America, and was just really trying to help push and manipulate it into going his way. Now, granted, I know a lot of people were saying, yeah, but a lot of the stuff he was doing just happened to be by coincidence. Like, stuff just happened to magically fall into place.
And isn't it ironic?
And true, but the way that he conducted himself, the way Daniel Bruhl was portraying this character, it was really great. Like, he seemed like he had like a lot of heartfelt emotion and stuff involved with it.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing, and why I kind of really fought to make sure that this villain is on the list, is because he's one of those villains that you're like, man, but yeah, I understand though. Like, I get it. The Avengers essentially were responsible for your family dying in Sokovia. That's a hard thing, and you understand why he's got to push for that, why he's doing what he's doing to try to split the Avengers apart, destroy them from the inside. It is crazy that his plan does work, but we have to assume that he's just a really smart guy. But it's the fact, it's that emotional pull that really, I feel like, just seals the deal on him as a villain. Now, obviously, again, we get more of him coming up soon, so I really hope that kind of drives some more of that emotional impact that he had in Civil War further on into that Disney Plus show. At number 4, it's the Vulture. This is an interesting one because we were actually waiting on this Spider-Man villain to pop up for quite a while. He was supposed to be in a Spider-Man 4 movie, pre-MCU, way back in the day. But no, we got him in Homecoming, and man, was he just such an impactful villain, such an intimidating villain. We talked about Zemo before and kind of the emotional impact, the draw of why he was such a great villain. The same can be said true for Vulture also. I mean, he's trying to fight for his family, trying to fight against the whole thing that Tony Stark was doing. But man, did he have such like an intimidating side to him too.
Yeah, he was definitely coming in, basically the little guy, the working class man that was getting a bum rap from basically not being able to get his business, not being able to make money, not being able to put food on the table. And I feel like that's something that every single person in the world could pretty much connect with. We all have that drive, that need to be able to fulfill not only ourselves, but for our family, for our loved ones. And I love that that's where this came from, because in the comics he comes from being like a businessman tycoon who at some points, like one of the storylines, he just wants to live forever, so he makes himself younger or something. Just that's not what the Vulture is, but that's what he is in the MCU. I like how intimidating he specifically is directly to Peter Parker. I mean, you look at that scene in the car when they're taking him to like the homecoming dance, and he sits there and has a little one-on-one tete-a-tete with Peter Parker while holding the gun. I love that scene. That's probably one of my favorite scenes of the entire movie. I love scenes where you get it where like the villain figures out who the hero is, hero figures out who the villain, like the secret identities are just completely out the window.
Yeah.
And it leaves that connection there just between those two characters. I love that kind of the tension that we have in there. And I also absolutely love the fact that he's played by Michael Keaton. Like, I absolutely love Michael Keaton coming back and playing Birdman again. At number 3 is Eric Killmonger. That just rolls right off the tongue. This was the one that I feel like, from the entire Black Panther movie, this was the one that had that exact personal connection to the other characters, because he's related to them. He comes from a militaristic background, coming in, he essentially is trying to do good. He wants Wakanda to open up and to share its resources and to be helpful to the rest of the world. He just has a weird way of showing it, like a weird way of processing and getting this done.
Yeah, he's one of those villains that's like, man, again, I get it, I understand, but could we maybe not like hurt other people in the process of doing it?
Please,
kind of a situation.
Maybe, kind of.
But that's the thing. Like, you have to connect with him because you saw him from a child to fast forwarding to where he's at there. You know that he went through some like pain and torment and stuff in his life by essentially not being reached back out to by his family, pulled back into Wakanda and raised the right way. It was such a painful thing, and then just the death and the poignancy of his death at the end of the movie was just such a beautiful, beautiful piece to add to that character. He's definitely one of the highest tier rated Marvel characters, which is why he's coming in at number 3 on our list here of the villains. It's such a big deal, and of course he's got to rate high on the list because his name's Killmonger. That's a villain name. Killmonger. He's a bad guy. How did no one see that coming? Coming in at number 2 is Loki Laufeyson. Oh yeah, that's right. I went full name on this one. You weren't expecting that.
Nerd! Yeah.
Exactly. We expect Loki to be on this list because it's Loki. He, up until a certain point, was the Marvel villain in the MCU. He came in, had such an endearing storyline in the first Thor movie, feeling forgotten by his own father. And then on top of that, just what that drove him to do when we got to Avengers, he is, like, by definition, just a well-rounded, well-written villain.
Absolutely. The way that they've portrayed him in these movies, taking him from the comic book pages where he was just the comical god of mischief into being a real threat who may or may not be good. It just depends solely on his mood and what day it is, apparently.
Yeah.
Like, I love the translation they've done with this. Tom Hiddleston has done a phenomenal job, mainly because, like, first of all, I didn't know Tom Hiddleston before this. This was, like, my first foray into Tom Hiddleston Dome.
Hiddle World.
Yeah. And he's done a phenomenal performance, and now I like seeing him in other things, solely based off of his portrayal of Loki. He made a very lasting impression, and I absolutely love seeing him every time he's on camera. I also love out of the fact that as many times as he's died and come back to life, he's died and he's getting his own Disney Plus show. Like, what an afterlife right there. It looks fantastic. I can't wait to see what they're going to do with that, because it seems like it's going to be a whole lot of time manipulation fun. but eager to see his character. But you know what else I'm eager to see is our number one villain on this. Who could it possibly be? I'm willing to bet it's Taserface. Is it Taserface? Let's find out if it's Taserface. Number one is Thanos. So it's not Taserface. Of course it's not Taserface, it's Thanos. I mean, who else could it possibly be? Thanos of Titan, the Mad Titan, the big bad ever since the end of Avengers. Like, absolutely, yeah, and we got a weird little Funko of him, I know. Really, really intimidating.
We're YouTubers.
Yeah, so Thanos, I mean, easily the number one. Like, he has to be. He's been orchestrating all these movies the entire time. Everything has been about him securing the Infinity Stones, putting them on the Infinity Gauntlet, and snapping away half of all life.
How'd that go again? I'm just making sure you can do it.
Oh, yeah. I can. So, of course he's the big bad. Of course he's number one for that. I mean, what else do you say? That's what he's been doing. But on top of that, his character has been great. Like, we've been talking about this whole time of like characters that you relate to for like having real human emotions and human reasoning. He absolutely does. His point that he makes sense, that resources are finite, and by wiping out half of all living life, sure, that you will be able to save those resources and ensure that the coming generations will be able to thrive.
The great thing about Thanos is that he had this cockamamie plan that he is able to literally get rid of half of existence. That is just an insane plan. That is something that we haven't seen like done cinematically ever, is what happens when we literally let the bad guy win. That is, first of all, he is what makes Infinity War so good, because that was his movie. That wasn't an Avengers movie, that was a Thanos movie. He was the hero of his own story here, and I thought that was so expertly handled within the MCU, not only by just all the story writers and everything, but also Josh Brolin's performance, all of it. Can you remember, going back to the first Avengers, when he just, very post-credit, turns his head and we're all like freaking out, oh, it's Thanos. Did we ever expect that his storyline would be as impactful or as deep as it was come Infinity War and Endgame? No. But they nailed it. And there's absolutely no reason that we could ever think that Thanos is going to be topped in the MCU as a villain. But hey, you know, there's several more phases to come where they can possibly try. That was our list. Did you agree with that list? Let us know in the comments below. Where did you have any of these villains? Did you agree with our number one? You probably did, but maybe your number 5 was a little bit different than ours. Let us know. Like the video. Do all those things. And also, you're going to want to jump over on our Patreon again. There's going to be some bonus content right after this that you're going to want to check out. It's going to be on that Avengers tier. That's the place to do it. Hop on our Discord from there and hang out with the community that's building over there. It's a good time over there. On top of that, there's other things that you can do as well. Follow us on social media at Cinefanatics MLP. I'm also at Chris Adams MLP, and he's at Robert Adams MLP. You can do all that stuff on the Twitters and the Instagrams.
Absolutely. And make sure you subscribe to the Cinefanatics. That would be us. You can subscribe by hitting the subscribe button that's right up here. Over here off to the side are a couple other videos that we have made. And as always, Chris, you're such a strong lady.
I'm out.
Should I say it again for good measure?
No.